Hi, I'm Camilla Richter, co-creator of the Digital Transformation Roadmap, a series designed to equip CXOs for their self-directed DX journey. And with me today is Tory Bjorklund, founder and CEO of Fide. Hi, Tory.
Hi, Camilla. Good
Thanks
to
for
be on
joining
with
me
you.
today. Yeah, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
In Chapter 8 of our DX Roadmap series, we witness a design session between Project Pulsar's solution architect and business analyst and the company's warehouse team. Now, what was originally going to be a routine sign-off on some minor changes to the solution quickly gets derailed by some unexpected information that could potentially be a large setback to the company's digital transformation effort. So I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about iterative design and your experience. In this chapter, we see that the fictional company, Galactic Gravity Inc., is using an iterative approach in their design sessions. In your experience, what are the top benefits of using iterative design within a larger digital transformation initiative?
Yeah, so from a big picture perspective, studies have shown consistently that it leads to higher customer satisfaction. On a little bit lower level, then that's the 50,000-foot view.
Right.
It provides frequent and early feedback, so people get a chance to hear back what they've said, maybe see back what they've said, maybe see how it was translated, and to give feedback then to the people that are working with the information they're providing. And that's one of the reasons why it provides higher customer satisfaction is they get that feedback loop. It also provides a lower cost of change because if you did something wrong or you understood something incorrectly or whatever, the change is smaller in a smaller increment, so it doesn't cost as much. Early studies that IBM did would show that a change of an incorrect requirement was 200 times more expensive after software was developed than to actually fix it during the development process. So it's a lot less expensive to make changes, and which then, of course, with less costs involved, then you're reducing the risk. You're reducing the risk of getting it wrong. You're reducing the risk of high cost of changes, the risk of not meeting customer expectations. And when I say customer, they could be internal customers or external customers, right?
Yeah. Wow. Those are pretty big benefits.
Yeah.
Can you share a real world example from your experience? I know you have a lot of digital transformation experience under your belt where iterative design helped uncover critical information that was not initially apparent. And how did you handle that situation?
Yeah, so I can think of one that was really impactful. We were working with a manufacturing company, and they manufactured capital equipment machinery. That's big machines that companies buy, custom built machines, and they were interested in the process of implementing a lean manufacturing software product that would help them with their manufacturing execution, their routing, their shop floor control, et cetera. And so during this process of designing the processes and configuring the software, we went through several routes, and it just seemed like everything was going great and everybody was happy. It looked like it was going to make some very large improvements. And there was a point then when we were implementing, or not implementing, but working through the subcontract process where portions of the machines were either manufactured or plated or otherwise worked by subcontractors outside of the organization, and how that was going to integrate with the routing. Well, one of the things that we found out was certain parts that had to have bearings pressed into them, for example, very tight tolerances, if they went out to plating, they needed to be re-milled so that the bearings would fit, because the plating would add a 1/10 of an inch or whatever it was. And it turned out that the software did not support circular routing, and meaning that you could not run a part back through a work center. That was a major error, in my opinion, in the design of the software. But had they gone forward and not done enough iterations to actually work through that scenario, they would have found out when it was too late to do anything about it. What we ended up doing was actually having to change the entire approach to how they were going to be routing things through their facility and through the subcontract process as well. And it was a major change, but we found it early. We found it long before it cost them significantly. And had we not been doing an iterative design process that included various types of scenarios, that would not have been caught.
Wow. So how do you balance the need for flexibility in iterative design with the pressure to meet these deadlines and stay within budget? Well,
first of all, you need to start by expecting to require at least 3 or more iterations for a process group. So when I think about iterative design from a digital transformation perspective, we're generally talking about designing the processes as opposed to designing software. That comes in as part of the lower level aspect of it. But when we're talking about designing processes, you need to expect to require at least 3 or more iterations within a process group. And you want to take small groupings. You don't want to say, okay, let's design the process from a requisition all the way to the use of an inventory item on the shop floor or something like that. You want to take small pieces and work through that. And what happens is naturally people think in terms of, well, we do this and then this person takes it and then this person approves it and then it gets sent to the vendor and blah, blah, blah. They go down through this. And that's what we call the happy path. But then it's when you start asking the questions, well, what about if it's a new product? What about if they're requesting something that your vendors don't carry and it's a new vendor? What about, there's all of these what ifs, and you start walking through all of those maybe edge cases or alternate paths. That takes several iterations, and nobody's going to have all of those in their head and be able to do that in one iteration. So you want to start with the happy path and then work out from there. So you want to have that expectation right from the beginning, get that in your estimate from the beginning so you have enough time set aside to do those iterations. The other thing is take good notes. Today with AI, note takers, man, those are huge helps. One thing that we used to say, and this was, of course, back in the 90s before AI took notes for you, was that your design sessions were only as good as the notes that you took. Because if you couldn't remember the decisions you made, or sometimes worse, you could remember the decision, but nobody could remember why you made that decision. And you would go over it again and again and again. So you have to take good notes and you have to use them. And then the other thing is, when you're talking about process design, don't start with a blank slate. At least start with as is. Sometimes if it's a new process, you can start with industry best practices, and you can find processes like that laid out. It doesn't take much to search them out and find them. And start with something so that you remember to ask all the right questions. Otherwise, if you're starting with a blank slate, you're going to forget stuff, and then you're going to end up, oh shoot, we missed that, and at some point you're going to have to go over it again. And then finally, trust but verify. If you're using a subject matter expert, for example, or a business process owner, and I've run into this before, where there's a business process owner, and well, this is what we do, and this is what we do, and this is what we do, and we're going all off of that, and then later it turns out that, well, that was what he thought was happening, but he actually didn't know. And so what you want to do is get evidence, get documentation, and I say documentation, I mean, like if they say, oh, well, we include the freight on, on the invoice as a separate line item rather than on the footer or whatever, something like that. Say, could I get a copy of a sample invoice or something, and just get the information, just validate it, check with other people, ask questions more than one way, ask the same question a couple of different ways, but basically don't just take everything at face value, kind of trust but verify. And then that way you're gonna it's kind of like beating around the bush. You're gonna chase out those birds that are hidden in the bush, so that you can get to all the information, because it's those kinds of things that are missed early on that really tend to put projects in the ditch.
Yeah, no, that's really good. In chapter 8 of the digital transformation roadmap, we see some frustration rising as some of this new information is brought to light.
That never happens.
No, it's not. Not realistic at all.
Nobody gets frustrated on these projects.
But what would you say to senior leaders who might be feeling frustrated with this 2 steps forward and 1 step back experience in their own project?
Yeah, so first of all, what I would say is oftentimes this is generated from the lack of institutional information. They have tribal information and things like that. And so part of it is, hey, it's on you. You don't have the level of maturity in the organization that allows you to do this in one take. So first of all, take some responsibility for that. Use it as an opportunity to insist on creating good documentation of your SOPs, of your processes, and that so that you can get it right quicker when you work to optimize processes again in future iterations. The other thing I'll say is that even if you had all of that and you have a as is and it's well documented, and then you want to make changes to be, realize that this is a design task. Nobody designs in ballpoint pen. You might do a word game or something in a ballpoint pen, but you're not going to design something. And a design task is a form of invention. It's a form of creativity. You never get it completely right the first time. And so set that expectation in your mind that it's more important to get it wrong early and often, so that you, through the iterative process, you get it right and you prove that this is wrong and prove that this is right, rather than insisting and pressuring people to do it in one take and then find out later because they didn't want to admit they were wrong, because you're pressuring them. You want to instead have that pressure to be, let's get all the mistakes out early and let's prove this out. Let's make sure we're going to be able to conduct business this way. Let's make sure that the process is going to work. Let's make sure that the software is going to support that process, etc.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Fail early and often.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, so really twofold: take responsibility for the current state of affairs. Number 2, encourage people to fail early and often.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights and sharing some of your experience today.
Yeah, you bet. It's fun.
Yeah. To read the latest chapter in our scenario-based series on digital transformation, you can click the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe on LinkedIn so you don't miss a single chapter. And if you enjoyed this conversation and are interested in the intersection between business and technology, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you again next time.
Thanks, Camilla.
Thank you.